everybody. I hope everyone's had a good week. And I'm just going to do a weekly review and go over all the setups in hindsight that I saw throughout the week. So this is, for my model at least, so this is the economic calendar. There is lots of news almost every day. Powell was testifying, which did make things a little hairy on those days. So keep that in mind. And go on Monday, but I really wasn't looking for lower prices after this daily candle on Monday. It closed way above the closing of the previous candle. It's clearly indicating it's bullish after taking these relative equal lows. There was an idea that we could attack a trend a little bit more and get more of a discount, and that's possible, but it really does not have to do that at all, especially since it's a stock market. This thing loves to press higher. And 4-hour chart, clearly bullish. The way we, going into the morning at 10 o'clock, you could see how bullish it is, and we retraced already into what seems to be a small 4-hour fair value gap. One more time into the new week opening gap, or that small fair value gap in the morning, probably around 9:30 open. And we deliver higher, closing above the bodies up here. Very clearly a bullish order flow. Closing above those two blue lines is an invert, or it's a fair value gap on the 4-hour chart. And we're clearly closing above that 50% line, 75% line, and attacking the high of it. So I'm looking for it to keep breaking through. Now, here's a order block, an hourly PD array. This would be one of the higher time frame PD arrays I can use to get into a trade. And these two light bulbs you see here are each time basically price draws into this area. You can then go in and look for a trade. They're both beneath the midnight open, so as price draws down here, it also makes a draw on that midnight opening price. And then you could use that to drop down and look for a sweep before I enter. Or I could, sorry, not you. And there's a 4-hour order block, which can also be used maybe as a higher time frame point of interest if we're looking for a sweep on a lower time frame. So 15-minute chart, you have a 15-minute sweep here. You have an initial attempt lower on the 15-minute chart, and price runs up higher above it, starts to consolidate a little bit and slowly retraces. This isn't really the best quality trade. You can kind of see the sweep isn't also the best. It's not very defined move lower. It's just a kind of a down close candle. But there isn't really much else to look at on the 15-minute chart. I mainly just wanted to include it for the sake of including it. Here's the lens session. I remember I was trading this and waiting for a change in the state of delivery. We did not get that here or here. Finally, we got a change state delivery right here. Then on the 5-minute time frame, that's my entry. There's an inverse fair value gap, fair value gap. I went short just at the inverse fair value gap. Stop should be at that high, at most at that high right there after the sweep. So I put it a little lower than that at this high right here. And then 3RR, sell side liquidity is a good target. Afterwards, 9:30, it does make a run on the hourly order block, but as you can see, there's no sweep on the 5-minute chart. That wouldn't be any trade. Same thing over here, there is no sweep either, but there's a 5-minute fair value gap, and I do substitute 5-minute fair value gaps for sweeps if it's the lowest fair value gap and there's no other fair value gap beneath it, especially because there's also an inverse fair value gap paired with it. I can substitute fair value gaps for sweeps. So dropping down on a lower time frame, again, this is a trade that I could have taken over here if there was a sweep. There was no sweep, but this is the one I'm interested in, the second trade. After we've entered that 5-minute fair value gap, there's a fair value gap, inverse fair value gap, change state delivery. And this 3 pattern, inverse fair value gap, change state delivery, I did tweak my rules in the middle of the week, my entry mechanism. I no longer require the change state delivery, only a fair value gap or an inverse fair value gap, and that's just to my discretion, really, wherever I want to enter. And we'll go on to Tuesday. There's a couple other assets I was watching, like there was a nice gold trade on Tuesday. I'm just going to go through it real quick, but what I was looking at is consequent encroachment. 50% of that wick got ran out. There was no trade here because there was no sweep, so skipped it. Go to the next one. There's another order block, higher time frame, point of interest. Okay, there was a 5-minute sweep, 1-minute chart, and 3 conditions I need were there. Price ran. Why am I not? You might ask yourself, why am I not considering any bullish PD arrays here? Is because we're obviously in a downtrend. We haven't made any low to highs where we've closed above that area. We did here, but we wicked up very quickly and came all the way back down to around these bodies. Overall, we're in a bigger trend lower, so I'm not worried about that. We're clearly seeking lower prices, and I'm trying to line myself up with the trend, with the bias. Trend is my friend. I was also looking at UK 100 this week. I started looking at it. I probably won't look at it too much because I can't trade it anyway. I thought I could maybe trade it on Apex or Top Step, but I can't. So, and my live, I'd have to buy more data. But UK 100 looks really, really nice. If anybody can trade UK 100, if anybody's trading London, this is a really nice market. It's super simple. I don't know. It's just clean, really. 2 a.m. kind of opens up, makes a run higher, sweeps, and then displaces, leaving fair value gaps. This is where I changed. On Tuesday, I stopped using change state delivery, so you don't see that anymore. But UK 100, higher time frame, point of interest for our breaker. I don't know why that's the last picture. That should have been the first picture, and then you use the 15-minute sweep and a 5-minute entry right here. But let's just get back to the Nasdaq. Another huge Diddy candle, I'd say. This is also closing above this previous daily high. So at this point, this isn't like a sweep. We're not coming up here sweeping this high because we're closing above it. If we were sweeping it, we'd come up here, hit this high, and then we'd displace and go lower. But we're not doing that. We're consistently closing above new highs and the bodies of candles, and driving through the highs of the previous candle continuously in the trend as we're reaching for something. And I have that buy side liquidity, which is the all-time high up there. I'm wanting to see price run to that. Oh, there was support on an hourly order block. Again, going into London at 3 a.m. You see how price closed above these two. We get a pullback. Only thing is, we don't hit the midnight open, and so I wouldn't really be looking to trade anything. But we do later in the morning. I'm using my 8:30 opening price. We do get beneath that and then hit that same order block. So I can start to look for trades. I can't look for shorts on this time frame because the bias is higher. The bodies are closing higher, and we're not closing beneath any of the up close candles. Inside that, when that order block hits, this was a little tricky, but there's 2 5-minute sweeps. You wait till 9:30, you get an initial sweep here, you get a second sweep there, so you have 2 opportunities to get in. I took a loss on this, and then I got break even on this one. This is very disappointing. It was a very disappointing day. I took a loss this day. It was about $200 loss, and I was very disappointed. But I should have had. This is a pretty tight stop too, but I remember I was in this, and then one price ran up here, came back, started consolidating. I just put my stop to about break even. I put it just beneath the blue fair value gap, thinking it might come back down, touch fair value gap, go back up. I didn't expect it to wick all the way down here. And to be honest, I should have waited for the inverse entry, or should have even added into that. There's nothing that would stop price. I'm always going back there. And I just didn't. I got in up here, which is fine. I just shouldn't have moved my stop to break even. There was no reason to do that. And at 11 o'clock, probably around the time Powell was done speaking, price just very quickly ran higher to take profit. It kind of set me and put me in a bad kind of area for the rest of the week. But let's move on to Wednesday. Again, I had more things on gold. I'm just going to quickly fly through this. So you have here I start including the change state delivery. This is how I determine my bias, right? If we're Closing above runs lower, consecutive candles down or consecutive candles higher. Here we both close beneath a run that goes from high. I don't know why I'm using the bodies of the up close candles, but it goes from high to low. Those are down close candles. We close above them. Then I use the order block, and then boom, you have a potential entry around 9 o'clock in Asia, and then you have another entry using this order block, and we sweep the high of the day. That entry comes around London at 3 a.m. But everything I need is there. There's a 5-minute fair value gap that acts as a sweep. There's no lower fair value gap that hasn't been traded to beneath it. And over here you have a 5-minute sweep as we enter the 15-minute bullish order block and before creating one last run higher to form the high of the day. But yeah, very big trade. I could use that inverse fair value gap here. I waited for a change in state delivery, but I would have gotten this a lot earlier when we inverse the gap, and then it would have worked. But I needed 3RR. That's why it's like this. Just ignore the first play. This isn't really a good play. I would have gotten in down here, and this is kind of why I stopped looking for the change in state of delivery. Sometimes I feel like for me to have a reasonable stop, I need to have a very big take profit. It usually still hits, but it's just, I don't know. I feel like it would have been easier to just get in way earlier at the inverse fair value gap. And then over here, another opportunity, something more like this is what I should have had. But it is what it is. This is a much smaller play. You don't going for as much profit. You're in this a lot less time, but your stop is smaller, and there also was no entry for this play. It just kind of shot up and never really traded back into any fair value gaps. Moving forward to UK 100. Again, very simple price action here. I really liked it, but price just runs up off an hourly volume imbalance. There's a 5-minute sweep at the same time. All right, and then you can see the inverse fair value gap and price run up to create that Judas swing, and we have a distribution like lower, which I wasn't able to find my entry on, but then we just have an easy distribution like lower after that, which just looked pretty nice. But on Wednesday, another higher, not too much higher. It's still making new highs, but it's closing above the previous close, or that's good. It's just not as aggressive. But in this day, these are more of the higher time frame point of interest I was looking at, so just keep them on your chart. This time we do have a nice London trade because we do hit that midnight open, so we can start to look for trades on the pullback to go long, continuations. Then there's a lot of consolidation during Asia, which could be worrying going into that London session. As you see, London session doesn't really do anything too impressive, but once it does hit the order block, there's a 5-minute sweep, and then on the 1-minute chart, not here, you have anywhere. Once we do that sweep, you can choose anywhere to try and enter. Honestly, not the best though. This is what I mean. I kind of woke up on this day and looked at how price was ranging on this time frame and the 1 hourly time frame, and I just didn't really like it. But I still tried to trade, I think, and took a loss on that day. Still though, when you see something ranging like this, I don't like to trade it. The reason because it's not really a market maker sell or buy model in this. However, when you start to trend and you close higher, now you have PD arrays, the fair value gaps you can use easily spot in order to support you, or inverse them in order to go the other direction. But yeah, that's what I just wanted to include about that day. Now, obviously we close higher, and there's a 15-minute inverse fair value gap here, which can act as a point of interest to go short. It can also be a potential point of interest to go long. So here we close beneath the order block, and then we hit the fair value gap, retrace back, and remember this price action, how we closed lower here, which is why I'm considering this order block. If we were to trade down here and wick all the way back up away from this 15-minute fair value gap, I would be bullish and I wouldn't be considering the order block. But because we close down here and we make a run back from the close to the order block, I would consider it. So yeah, there is potential long. There's also short at the same time. Ignore the first play. This isn't really a good trade. There is a loss taking that first sweep using the 50-minute fair value gap as a higher time frame point of interest. And so this is this very small sweep here, and then second sweep. I can ignore the second sweep, but there's a sweep right there at the high. And then this trade does get break even. I made a video. I was in this trade, took a partial at the high here, and then when we inverse this fair value gap, I wanted to short, and I was waiting for the blue area to short. It hit the red area in the order block and it went lower, and I should have had my stop at break even, but I didn't. I was kind of conflicted and didn't know too much what to do. So I did take a loss on that and didn't take that short. And then price had a second opportunity when it hit another sweep. So I'm not really sure where. Yeah, I guess I'm not really sure where that second sweep is. So ignore that second trade. I have to take a closer look at it. But we did sweep. We did hit the higher time frame order block, and then sweep these lows, right here, and have a long entry. I'm just trying to figure out why I was looking at this to be a short entry. I think, yeah, well, we inversed the 50-minute fair value gap as point of interest. And I think I was looking at this 5-minute fair value gap, the open one right here. I wanted to see if price would trade into that to act as a sweep. And then on the 1-minute chart, this just kind of looks like a consolidation and manipulation. And I knew if I had went long, I'd have to run into the 5-minute fair value gap. I should have just written that down here. So I wasn't really considering longs anymore, and longs anymore, and I just stopped paying attention to price after that missed trade. This is a Lund trade, which again I wouldn't really take. So a bit of a rough day Wednesday. I'll have to go over that journal though and just take a second look at all those setups. Here's Thursday, another day that makes a nice run higher. It has a pretty solid daily candle higher. So there was a really nice trend there. There's a higher time frame for fair value gap as your point of interest, and it gets hit at a nice time. The 15-minute chart, I would then look for a sweep. So you have, as we hit the higher time frame point of interest, a sweep there. We also have a higher time frame point of interest on a 50-minute fair value gap leading into the sweep. That could be used to short above midnight open, and then the sweep hits the midnight open, so we can look for longs from that area. 5-minute chart is my entry because we had a 15-minute sweep, and then price runs higher very easily. This is a very, very nice trade. Right around 10 o'clock. I did spot this trade. I just don't remember why I didn't take it. I think I had made a TikTok or YouTube short. And yeah, I think I was in this short. I had taken the 5-minute sweep after the 15-minute higher time frame point of interest. Yes, I was in this short, and then didn't take any partials because I had less size. But when price came back on me, I was more willing to put my stop to break even since I didn't take any partials. Got stopped out of break even. Then my phone was almost dead, my Chromebook was almost dead, and I was playing basketball at 11. And I said it's not worth it. I don't want to get into another trade, not be able to manage it, not be able to access it at all. It's gonna drive me crazy. It's gonna drive me nuts, and I just don't want to do it. I'm not even gonna be able to take a partial. So it's gonna be a big trade, and I don't want to do that. And I just didn't do it. I think it's a good reason. But when I got back on the chart at market close and I saw the price had just trended higher all day, I was pretty happy. Not like happy like, oh, I did it right, but more like motivating happy, like, wow, I actually didn't try and gamble, and I'm not really upset about this working out and missing out, because it's just motivating to see that I was able to spot it and foresee it, and it just makes me more excited for future trading days where I will be able to capture those moves, because it is an idea that I wanted to chase. And really, the only reason I want to chase it is because it's my model, and I know that my model is going to keep appearing, and there's going to be more opportunities of trading that model, and that's what I'm happy about. Friday, another large candle. I know it doesn't seem like it. This is because the settlement is turned on. So if I were to go to the daily chart and then turn off this daily closes settlement just real quick, this is what it would look like. You have Thursday's candle and you have Friday's candle. It just looks, maybe I'll just leave it like this. It just looks a little better that way. But a 4-hour fair value gap, we run into this. Now, let's just say there was a change in state delivery at the 4-hour chart, and then we had created a bearish order block, in which we don't, but because we have all these consecutive up close candles to worry about, and we did something like this where we wicked, I wouldn't consider shorts. I wouldn't consider shorting the bearish order block because we already wicked such a long distance down and then made such an insane move back up. I would not be considering shorts. Same thing here. This is the exact same concept, but would not consider this an order block as higher time frame point of interest since price already displaced the discount into a new higher time frame point of interest. So we displaced lower into this hourly point of interest. I'd be looking for buys and I'd ignore any shorts off that order block. That up close candle there as a higher time frame point of interest. Nothing really can do during London. Price is above the midnight opening price. We're also consolidating and ranging, so I could look for shorts. But for me to look for shorts on the 50-minute chart, I suppose we do close beneath these two up close candles at around 3 a.m. And you'll see there won't be any entry if I were to go back to that time. There is no sweep at around 3 a.m. Let me just make sure. So, I mean, I would have been able to get up. Oh, no, there is a sweep. There's a nice sweep here. We swept that, and then 1-minute chart. Let's see if there's any entries. Could have taken this inverse. Don't get it. Could have taken a short off this and tried this inverse, the bottom one, tried that fair value gap, and then ultimately though I would have gotten stopped out over time. So let's just consider a loss in London. However, when I kind of saw the way we were kind of ranging sideways at around 4 a.m., I just didn't trade it. And then price hits the order block around 9:30. Then this is the hourly higher time frame point of interest. Ignore that line there. There's also a 15-minute fair value gap, which is a higher time frame point of interest underneath the 8:30 opening. Price hits. So those two areas are places you can take trades off of. And then 5-minute sweep here, 5-minute sweep there. 1-minute chart, you do have a fair value gap there, fair value gap here, and then those are two opportunities to get in for some nice trades. 3R. There's nothing in the afternoon either. I tried looking for a trade in the afternoon. There was nothing there. But yeah. So, anyways, with that out of the way, I hope everyone enjoyed and good luck next week. I will be back next week. Goodbye.